Hi guys, welcome to First Aid for Paddlers. Today we're going to talk about hypothermia. My name is Brett Burns. I have been an advanced EMT for 14 years now practicing, and this is...
Hi, I'm Nick Burns, Brett's dad, Whitewater enthusiast. I've been an advanced EMT for 32 years or so. I also work in a local ER, considerable experience with cold water emergencies.
Today we're going to talk about the weather and the water getting colder out there. Whether it's fall for you when you're watching this right now or it's still spring and you're going to be getting out into some of that colder water. We want to teach you about how to recognize hypothermia and frostbite, as well as how to treat it if that ever happens to you or somebody that you're with in the future, as well as how to prepare better in the future. Alright guys, first thing we're going to talk about here is effects of cold water on the body. If you're going to be out there rafting, kayaking in cold water, cold weather, anytime that you have that chance of actually dropping your body temp pretty significantly, these are things to always kind of be mindful of. Hypothermia starts to occur as soon as your body temperature starts to lower. Your normal body temperature is 98.6 degrees, and as soon as you start going lower than that, these effects can kind of start to happen to you. You are clinically hypothermic at 95 degrees here, and Nick is going to start talking to you about the signs and symptoms of hypothermia.
First sign of hypothermia is really shivering. Everybody's seen their buddies shivering on a cold day, their kids out shivering. That's just the human body's way of trying to warm itself up. Physical movement warms you up. Next thing is exhaustion. You're going to be too weak to be able to do some things that you could normally do. End up in the water, you can normally pull yourself up into the boat. In extreme colds, you can't always pull yourself up just because you're not physically strong enough. After that is loss of cognitive abilities. You're not thinking clearly, you're not making the right decisions. Guy that has trouble getting his gloves back on, guy that has trouble paddling because they forgot something that they've been doing for years and years. Next thing is just fumbling hands. You can't hold onto the paddle fully. You can't get a good grip because you're just not able to physically hold on to that. Those are things that you can take care of on the boat. Just doing some paddling exercises. Paddle through the slow sections, keep everything in the body warm, make sure you're as dry as possible. After that, you start seeing like memory loss issues. People don't remember where they're at, where to run that particular rapid, where to get out and eddy out for safety reasons. People with slurred speech, now we're getting into some real significant stuff. If you're so cold that you have slurred speech, this is a late sign, and this is where you start needing to look into professional medical attention. Last thing is just drowsiness. If you got somebody who cannot stay awake on the water, drowsiness is a late sign of hypothermia, and that's when you're definitely going to be needing some extra help to get this person to a safe place and probably professional medical attention after that.
So those three things that we're going to talk about at the bottom of the list, the more extreme or severe symptoms, memory loss, slurred speech, drowsiness. If you're seeing any of those things, it might be time to seek medical attention. Alright guys, now we're going to go over frostbite. Frostbite, if we are wearing all the right gear, should really only be happening on our extremities. When I'm talking, your fingertips, your nose, and your earlobes, right? Or your ears, period. But frostbite really occurs when you get that mix of wind and water on your skin. And that's why we should only really be seeing it on our appendages. But Nick here is going to talk about the different signs and symptoms of frostbite.
First thing you're really going to see on somebody else or yourself is blue extremities. So if your fingertips are blue, your partner's nose or ears are kind of a blue color, one of the early signs of frostbite. After that, next thing you're really going to see is tingling. They're going to say you have like a pins and needles feeling in your fingers, your nose, your ears, and it's rather painful when you get to that point. After that, it's a loss of function. You're just not going to have the hand dexterity, the foot dexterity to be able to grab something, to be able to hold on to something firmly like you would normally be able to do. After that, you're going to look for a waxy look. If somebody's nose, ears, your fingertips are very white and looks like there's wax on them, that's the point where you're going to really seek some medical attention. At that point, this becomes very serious.
Yeah, this would be one of those situations where you actually have that possibility of limb loss, right? You know, once we get past that waxy point, if you don't seek immediate medical attention, that's when you could be looking at amputation level events.
Yeah, people losing fingers and toes for stuff like that is a real thing. So now we're at the point of our float where we recognize that someone in our party is in need of help. The next thing we have to decide is, do you evacuate as soon as possible, or do you continue down to your planned takeout spot? Every trip's going to be a little different. This is something you have to decide on your own. But the important thing to remember is, once you're at this point where you're going to start to rewarm somebody, you need to make sure that you can keep them warm and they're not going to get into a cold situation again. There's a lot of skin damage that can happen to somebody once you start the rewarming process, let it get cold again, and then come back to the warming process again. So that's something you always have to remember. What you want to do next is take the wet clothes off of people, no wet up against the skin, and then you're going to start redressing them, whether you're redressing them out of the dry bag that you've carried with you or out of your shuttle vehicle or campsite once you get down to it.
And now we're going to talk about like different kinds of ways that you can warm people up. Passive warming and active rewarming. Passive warming is really just getting them into a more neutral environment, you know, slightly warmer than the air. Talking about those dry clothes, talking about a tent, talking about a vehicle that hasn't, you know, been warmed up yet, you know, something along those lines. And then we're going to talk about more active rewarming. They have chemical heat packs out there that are really nice. They come in a little bag, or hot hands even is the same thing. Two chemicals mixed together and they create some heat, which is really nice, really easy to carry. Heated vests and heated socks are another great option. Those usually need a battery pack. Some people aren't comfortable wearing them underneath their whitewater gear, but even if you just have it packed in your gear bags and get those out, get those onto people, it can help warm them up a whole lot. Heaters in the vehicle, or you know, propane heaters for campsite if you have those. Also, if you're in a situation where you're not planning on taking off the river, let's say that this is a multi-day trip and you're going to be out there for a while. If the situation's appropriate and you just need to get this person warm, it's important that you have your fire starting skills on point. You know, whether you use a lighter or whatever else your fire starter options are, it is important that if you're going to be out in possibly hypothermic situations that your fire skills are on point, because it can actually mean that person's life or limbs in certain situations. Alright guys, now that we have talked about hypothermia and frostbite, how to recognize it, how to treat it, we're going to talk about some of the better ways, just real quickly, how to avoid it. Technical outerwear is what we're talking about. One of my favorite things out there is a dry suit. You know, most dry suits out there cover your entire body with the exception of your hands and your head. As long as you layer properly underneath them, you're usually going to do pretty well in that situation. In my opinion, your next best bet is going to be in that wetsuit category. Wetsuits, take in some water, warm that water up, and then keep that warm water against your body. I like to do a splash gear wetsuit combo if that's all I have. The splash suit will help keep you mostly dry, but when you do get wet, that water will warm up and help keep you warm. Gloves and pogies are another really big thing. If you are wearing a dry suit, like I said, your hands and your head are still exposed. If the water is really cold, gloves really help. There's some really good neoprene gloves out there. I know that kayakers really enjoy pogies. Those are always a really good thing to look into. Pogies are essentially paddle covers that you stick your hands into, and they don't necessarily keep you from getting wet, but they help keep you from the wind more than anything, and just help keep you a little bit more dry, a little bit more out of the wind in those situations. Hats are another really big thing. Some people enjoy those neoprene hoods. They go over the head altogether, they protect the neck, protect everything but the face. Some people really enjoy the helmet caps too, the neoprene helmet caps. Those are always good. Also beanies and stocking caps. If you are in a situation where they're in a long section between rapids, or the rapids for this particular river are over, and you're just going to be on a flat section out. You know, take off your helmet, whatever, put that beanie on as long as it's safe to do so. Remember in those hat situations that you do lose 40 to 45% of your temperature, of your body temperature through your head. So that is important to know.
Next thing you have to remember is there's no replacement for experience. Your time on the river previously is helping you prepare for all the stuff you're going to do in the future. Proper planning saves lives. Wear the right gear, own the right gear, make sure that the people you're with are properly prepared. I carry extra stuff just to help people that may not be prepared as far as we are on the waters, and dress for the weather that you're facing for the time.
Alright guys, I am Brett and this is Nick from Death and Go Whitewater. Thank you guys for watching and have a good day.
Thanks guys.